He's done it for France and before that for Juventus. So how can Manchester United get the best out of Paul Pogba? It's worth starting with a look at what type of player Pogba is. From his persona, we can see that his style of play is very attack-minded. There are few defensive contributions, nor is Pogba particularly interested in aerial battles, despite his size. For context, let's look at some players with similar styles. Mateo Kovacic at Chelsea is certainly of a similar ilk, at least in style if not necessarily in substance. And Thiago Alcantara at Bayern Munich also boasts a very similar style to the Frenchman. Both of these players have enjoyed a fair amount of praise, with Maurizio Sarri earlier this season describing the Croatian as a very good player, while Thiago is linked with a summertime move to Real Madrid. What's the difference for Pogba then? It could be as simple as his position on the pitch. At Chelsea, Kovacic is allowed to roam further forward in a 4-3-3 formation with Jorginho anchoring midfield and N'Golo Kante able to cover any space that the Croatian departs. Similarly, Thiago enjoyed most success at Bayern last season when he had Arturo Vidal anchoring the midfield behind him and Corentin Tolisso able to cover his position while he surged forward in that familiar 4-3-3 shape. By contrast, José Mourinho's most favoured formation at United has been a 4-2-3-1, with Pogba in a deeper midfield pivot alongside Nemanja Matic. This is perhaps because Pogba's physicality leads many to believe he can fulfill defensive duties better than the likes of Kovacic and Thiago, but this is simply not true, and a return to the radar of earlier proves that. With United's fullbacks pushing forward and Matic not mobile enough to cover enough space for Pogba to join them, the Frenchman becomes shackled. So what does it take to get the best out of him? Making his name at Juventus, Pogba was most used in a, you guessed it, 4-3-3 shape, with Andrea Pirlo playmaking behind him and Arturo Vidal energetically covering space beside him. And in winning the World Cup with France, it was a similar story. Once again, Pogba found himself on the left side of a midfield three, with Kante able to cover behind him and Matuidi beside him. If José Mourinho wants to get the best out of his record signing, then giving him extra support in the middle of the park will be a good place to start.